Tea Leaf Nation, an online magazine which looks at social media in China. Thanks very much for being with us again, David. This has been absolutely huge for us on Facebook. We asked for comments and we've had hundreds. Just wanted to bring you one of the first ones we got in from Neil David Mackey, who said, "Stop looking at women as the cause for perverts. It's the perverts who should be receiving all of the blame." Is that the kind of comments on Chinese social media like Weibo as well?
I think there's a clear split. Netizens on Weibo are clear that they find it unacceptable that the Shanghai No. 2 subway line proactively sent out this tweet in which they effectively called out one of their own passengers and invited harassment of that passenger. But on the question of whether this was appropriate attire, netizens seem rather evenly split, with many of them saying, in fact, that it was not appropriate for the woman to dress that way, and in fact her dress did evince a lack of self-respect.
We've got some of those comments as well. Jade Lauren Shatcloth saying, "Don't open yourself up for it. There will always be perverts. Why make yourself their target?" So what kind of percentage do you think of comments were pro women having the choice and which ones were critical, David?
Well, it's very hard to say. There were a number of online polls which actually appeared to show different results. There's also the question of what the silent majority of Chinese think. Of course, the majority of Chinese are still not users of Sina Weibo. But among those who chose to comment, it appears to be a rather even split.
Is this, though, showing the role of social media yet again? We've had a few big stories recently, the forced abortion story, the first female astronaut in space, just the power of social media and gaining momentum in China?
Absolutely. Weibo has become the premier platform for the closest thing that China has to free speech and free debate on the issues of the day. And in this particular case, of course, the image and the tweet itself started the story. So Weibo, in fact, in the space of 5 or 6 days, was able to bring this singular image and the singular tweet into international attention.
Is there anything to do with the fact that this happened in Shanghai, which I guess we think of as being one of the more liberal Chinese cities?
Shanghai certainly is one of the more liberal Chinese cities. I don't know that that's the case. Perhaps you could say that people in Shanghai feel that they should be safe and they should not feel uncomfortable dressing in a way that is perhaps a bit edgier than you might see on China's interior. So perhaps from that perspective, this tweet by a government organ in Shanghai was particularly troubling.
The fact that women are walking around Shanghai and on subways wearing this, does this show some kind of progress, though, in the status of women, how comfortable women are feeling in China?
That's a difficult question to answer, whether fashion can tell us anything about the progress of women's rights in China. But I will say this, the recent discussions and controversies that you mentioned have really thrown the role of women in China into public discourse. And I think it's clear from what we've seen recently that women's rights in China still do have a long way to go.
David, thanks very much for joining us. And before we leave the story, just to bring you a few more of those Facebook comments that we asked for. James Hay saying, "As a red-blooded, responsible male, I know I can look, but I can't touch. It's really a personal choice what you wear." And Maria says, "So one sex has to control their fashion because the other sex cannot control their actions." No. As you can see, just a huge response to this story. Lots of different opinions.